right, so tonight we've got Dave Glander. He is from Reasons for Hope. He is a former atheist, but now sold out follower for Jesus Christ. And we get to hear from him tonight, talk about, is Jesus the only way to heaven? Looking at several of the world religions and then comparing them to see how they stack up. But before we get to that, let's just open up in prayer. Lord Jesus, we thank you for this time that you've given to us. I thank you that we get to fellowship with one another and draw closer to each other and closer to you. I thank you for this time that we have to listen to Dave. I pray that you give him your wisdom and your words as he speaks. May our hearts and our minds be attentive to listen, Lord. We give this time to you, Lord Jesus. In your name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Dave Glander.
Sweet, thank you. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Awesome, sweet. So I hail all the way from Georgia, and that's why I wasn't here last week, because Georgia got an ice storm, and we don't deal with that. We're not set up for that kind of stuff. Our trees aren't set up for that kind of stuff. Our power lines aren't set up for that kind of stuff. So we did. But did y'all know that God answers prayer? We're going to preach for a minute, then we'll go on this. Sometimes it's not your prayer, because He knows better than we do, right? So I kept praying like, God, would you warm it up just enough that when that rain falls down, it doesn't stick and freeze to everything, because we're just not built for that. 26 years ago was the last time we had an ice storm, and it ruined the state. And so we went through the first phase, and it stuck to everything, right? So we're going through our second phase of rain coming through, precipitation coming through, and I'm praying. I'm like, God, please just warm it up a few degrees. That's all it will take, and I know you can do this, you know? God's got a sense of humor. He answered my prayer, but He made it colder. And so what happened was, I go outside to check the precipitation, it's sleet, which was nowhere in the forecast. Sleet doesn't stick to things. It bounces off of stuff. And I was like, praise God, sleet's coming down. So God answered my prayer, but did He do it the way I asked? No, sometimes it doesn't look exactly the way you asked for it, but it's still an answered prayer. And I got news for you. His was actually better. The sleet was so much better than my humble little idea of warming it up. His idea was so much better. So anyways, that's why I couldn't be here last week, so I apologize that we had to bump it a week. I really just didn't want to leave my wife at home by herself if a tree fell down or something like that. That would be a terrible thing. I don't even want to deal with that, but at least I would have been able to help her deal with that. So I appreciate you guys coming out tonight. I give you I call it my elevator testimony. Y'all familiar with Josh McDowell? Anybody? Josh's been a good friend of mine for years, and he convicted me years ago that every single time he talks, even if it's at a college debate, he shares his testimony, at least this much of it, because he says we overcome by what? The blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. And so we're in an elevator, we're going to the 15th floor testimony. I did not grow up in a church. I did not grow up going to anything Christian related. I grew up in New England where there's very little God whatsoever. And I went to public school. They told me Darwin had it figured out. And so I really even never looked to God for anything, because I didn't think there was a need to look for God for anything, because I thought everything was already explained about how we got here. Fast forward, I moved to Georgia when I'm 18 years old. Now God dropped me in the Bible Belt. And there's Christians everywhere. And I started asking questions. I'm like, what is the deal with these people everywhere, you know? And nobody could give me an answer at all. Not even like a maybe answer. This was just no answer. And so I just despise Christians. This guy invited me to a Bible study one night, and I literally reamed him out for like 15 minutes, telling him how stupid he was to invite somebody as smart as me to go study some stupid, you know what I mean? Like, I was just a mean person when it came to Christians. And so my mom died when I was 26 years old. I've been doing drugs since I was 6 years old. And fast forward, I'm 26, she dies. For the next 3 years, I got hooked on meth really, really bad. She was my best friend, so when she died, just kind of destroyed me. And so I got hooked on crystal meth, which I was 105 pounds when I met the Lord. I was living as a homeless guy in an abandoned house with couch cushions that I found on the side of the road. And I went home one night. My house was in foreclosure. I had abandoned my wife and my son, which we're about to celebrate. No, we did celebrate 30. No, we're about to celebrate 30 this year. It'll be 30 years of marriage. So we're still doing well, but at that time I had abandoned her and my son. I went home that night because I was just so tired of life, and I was ready to kill myself. And she had been reading this book called Knowing Jesus Personally, and I was mocking the book. I was mocking her. I was mocking God. I was mocking the whole idea of this entire thing. And finally, I'm making a really long story short, because we're about on the 14th floor, about to hit the 15th floor, where I finally said, if you're God, do something about it. That was my altar call. And I remember staring through my ceiling going, if you're God, do something about it. And the next morning I woke up, the meth addiction was gone, my cursing mouth was gone, he took my guitar, he wiped my slate completely clean like a Damascus Road type thing. Well, as an atheist, guess what? That's supernatural. In an atheistic worldview, there's only natural. So I knew I had a problem because something supernatural had happened. Started studying Buddhism, started studying Islam. Christianity was really the last thing I was going to look into. My mother-in-law gave me A Case for Christ by Lee Strobel. And when I read that book, it changed everything. Because I got to the point where he was talking about the historical references, and we're going to cover some of that tonight, about Jesus outside of the Bible from enemy testimony. And all of a sudden I was like, wait a second, he was real? I thought he was just some mythological figure that you emulate, whatever. I didn't really know. And so I picked up the Bible, and when I read my peace I leave with you, my peace is, that surpasses, I read that, and I was like, that's the peace I felt that next day. And finally I had the answer. And so that shoved me into a world of apologetics that I've never left since then. It's been going on 22 years now, and I travel the country now, special missions to Nigeria, headed to Nigeria in March. Please pray for me, because I don't know if you know about Nigeria, but Christians are getting slaughtered over there, and God has called me to go. I went there 4 years ago. God's called me back there. So it's going to be it'll be an interesting trip, to say the least. The first time I ever heard a call to prayer was in Nigeria, and that's a freaky thing. If you've never been around a mosque that has that call to prayer that's echoed throughout the blocks that it goes through. And Israel is the second time I heard that. But anyway, so that's why I'm here. I want to share with you a message called "Is Jesus the Only Way to Heaven?" But before I do that, I want to tell you about something that I'm super excited about. Because see, I run youth camps during the summertime. We call them Equip Retreats, and they're apologetics youth camps. And we still have rock balls and zip lines and boats and soccer and baseball and all the kumbaya with s'mores by the fire at night. It's a full-on camp. But we sit them down 17 times in 6 days. 3 times during the day, we're teaching them up here. We're giving them the why to their what. Why do you believe that? If you don't know why you believe what you believe, your what's useless. That's why we're losing 8 out of 10 youth by the time they're 23, because we're not doing a good enough job giving them the why. And so at night, we transfer it to more of an evangelical message. What do you do with that now? We gave you the knowledge. What do you do with it? And when you connect those 2 points, we are seeing over the past 12 years of doing it, lives have been changed. I mean, students are still walking out 10, 12 years later, their faith, and they say Equip was a major difference. But the thing is, parents are like, where's Equip for parents? Well, and grandparents were saying, not that you're a grandparent, you look way too young to be a grandparent. But grandparents and parents were saying, where is Equip for us? And we couldn't do it. Like, parents don't have time to go for a week or a weekend or even a Friday, Saturday. Like, they just don't have time. And then even if we did, we'd have to find like a motel style camp, because you don't want to separate husbands and wives, like you do with guys and girls during camp. You can separate them, and then we'd have to have childcare. So I want to introduce you to something that we just released, I guess it was October. So it's pretty new, but this is a short little thing.
Are you ready to grow your faith, live it out, and share it with others? You've come to the right place. Welcome to Equip You. Equip You brings trusted teachers from Reasons for Hope straight to you, with courses that are short, clear, and packed with truth you can use every day. But don't just take our word for it.
I can't wait to try it out with
These
my
are actual testimonies.
Love the short video lessons and support materials. This course was fun and educational. I highly recommend it.
That's coming
And
from a
here's the best
team.
part. Just $4.99 a month for an individual subscription. That's less than the cost of a cup of coffee. And it gives you an all-access pass to every course. Equip You, brought to you by Reasons for Hope.
So that's our new platform, Equip You. It's an online class platform. If you want to take your education to the next level, you're getting a college level education, but we're breaking it down here in a much more simple way. You can do it at your own time, at your own pace, from anywhere in the world, from any device. It's called Equip You. Go to equipyou.org and you can find all about it, because I'm telling you, I am convinced we need you guys. Like, I know some of you are sitting in here going, Why do I need apologetics? Because you've got friends, you've got family,
That's right.
you've got people in your life. I even have youth sometimes like, I believe this stuff, why do I need to be here? I'm like, do you know anybody that doesn't believe? Like, do you want to be a disciple that's making disciples? Like, do you want to be a witness? You need to know this for their behalf. Part of the reason why I became the apologist that I am is I was trying to prove my brother's atheism wrong for so many years that ended up I dedicated the Faith Survival Guide to him. I was like, it's dedicated to my brother because in the pursuit of trying to make you wrong, I became an apologist. That's a little bit more polite than that. But anyway, equip you that I can't it's $4.99 a month. Most of the places it's $79 for this one and $125 for this. It's $4.99 a month gives you unlimited access to everything. So that's the way. So we're going to talk about this tonight. Is Jesus the only way to heaven? Obviously, I'm assuming because it's a Tuesday night and we're all in here on our own accord. At least I think. Are you guys here on your own accord, or do you have a drug problem? Like did your parents drag you here like a drug problem to get it?
They brought their own car.
I just
I drive myself.
Oh wow! Wow, that's so you are here on your own accord. I love when I say that to people like you got a drug problem. They're like, no, I don't. Like nobody drug you here. Get it? Like 2 o'clock in the morning. I got it. That's funny. I'm assuming all of us believe that Jesus is the Messiah. I'm assuming that. I'm not going to have an altar call at the end of this because I'm pretty sure on a Tuesday night, if you took your time to come out, you already believe that. However, this is from the largest church in Manhattan, and this was 4 years ago. I was going to give this talk at a church in Tupelo, Mississippi, and ran into this the night before, and it confirmed this talk has to go forth. And watch.
God. These words can apply to you, no matter what your faith background. We get so twisted in this country and in many cultures to create divides and boundaries and barriers between human beings because of our faith difference. Think about it, that we use the thing that we believe makes us closer to God, the very things divide us from one another at times. And it makes no sense. And so I'm not one of those people. There was a time you would see people in the pulpit say, if you don't believe in Jesus, you're going to hell. That's insanity in many ways, because that is not what Jesus even believed. And so the key is, do you believe in God? And whatever your path is to God, I celebrate that personally. I celebrate that. Again, we have enough in this world that divides us. We need to find those things that bring us closer together.
There's no one way to heaven, no one way to paradise. It's like television. Now it's over 800 channels of cable, and they're all pretty entertaining. So I'm pretty sure, man, that to get to heaven, there's got to be more than one route. Because somebody watching another channel or taking another channel than you, they still getting entertained, and they probably still getting to heaven.
He was a powerhouse for the Christian gospel for years, and has completely changed his position. And that's a pastor in a church saying, if you're going to hold out to Jesus is the only way to heaven, that's just not right. Not even Jesus taught that. And it's the Lord. He's got over 10,000 members. I mean, so this is. To be honest with you, I'm a pastor. Well, I'm over the road too much, so I had to step down from pastoring. I miss just preaching. You know what I'm saying? I just wish I could spend my days just preaching the goodness of God every single day. But I'm compelled that we need to have these conversations, because if we don't have these conversations, that's why we're going to lose folks, okay? And so I want to answer the question, is Jesus the only way to heaven? We're going to start, I'm a sucker for the word truth. I love the word truth. He says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. He's making a bold statement right there, and we're going to challenge that statement, because here's the thing. I was asked one time, what's the biggest problem in Christianity? And I said, Christian relativism. And I don't mean just relativism, I mean Christian relativism. You got your understanding of God, I've got my understanding of God. It's fine. We can have differences God is God. And we can have our misunderstandings, but that's our problem to reconcile, not that he's got two different opinions. So relativism, it's based on feelings, it's preferences. It's not facts. There's no facts to relativism. It's a view that truth claims can be relative to the person. So that's, I think, one of the most dangerous things that we're up against is when you can't identify what's true and what's not true. Where do you go from here? You know what I mean? If we can't solidly land on this is truth, then we really can't finish the conversation. So we've got to be able to get to that. So we're gonna challenge relativism. And you guys have Kroger's or Publix? I don't think so. We have Kroger's and Publix where I am at grocery stores. And what's that? You know what we got that's more fun than anything you got? We got Piggly Wigglies. Who said that at the same time? That was awesome. You knew where I was going. But we're gonna challenge this feelings, okay? And so these are a little bit older commercials, but they're fun. They're Valentine's commercials. The first one's from Kroger.
This Valentine's Day, you can't say be mine. Until you've been here. Kroger, where your celebrations begin.
Roses. Guys, do not bring your date 49-cent bleach on Valentine's Day. That's not good advice at all. Who was really moved by that commercial? Anyone? Anyone just like, oh, I mean, bleach? Who authorized that to go forward? Like, we should advertise 49-cent bleach for Valentine's Day? Come on. The irony of all this is they just built the Kroger about an eighth of a mile from my house. It's sad, but it's there. So they've actually won me over because, I'll show you why. This was where I shopped for a long time. Ready? This is Publix. Everybody take a deep breath in, deep breath out. Here we go.
From scratch. You know what kind you want?
I want it shaped like a heart.
Like a heart? Who's this for? Okay. I'll get the measuring cup and we'll get started. Do that. Okay, ready? So, does she know you like her?
I guess.
No. He knows his age. Watch this. I know, let's put her name on it. Okay, you better hurry up. I'm gonna pick you up outside right at 3 o'clock.
Bye now.
Bye. Oh wait, you forgot your cake.
Publix, where shopping is a pleasure.
I've seen that commercial 50,000 times and it's still just, I'm a crybaby, so. Based on emotions, where are you shopping? I'm shopping Publix. I'm shopping Publix every time. They have the greatest commercials. And truth be told, Publix does have some of the nicest people as their employees and stuff. But here's the fact of the matter is, this is going back probably 6 years ago when I put this together, but whole wheat bread, Kroger's $1.88, Publix is $2.69. Brussels sprouts, a little bit of a difference in weight, but you'll notice the difference in price is way more than the difference in. I pulled this off the website. Mozzarella, don't mess with mine. Look at the difference. $3.69 versus $1.88. Now I would love to pay these prices now. That would be phenomenal. I would be glad to pay $3.69 for a block of mozzarella. You gotta say it mozzarella. You gotta put your fingers together like that on the line. And then sweet potatoes. How can you mess up a sweet potato? I mean, everybody's getting them from the same place. There's 63 cents difference. And then chicken breast, roughly 3 pounds. It's $1.99 a pound versus $4.49 a pound. Sweet onions, don't mess with my onions. A $2 difference, right? So here's the thing. If you're gonna shop basis fact versus feeling, you better bring your wallet. It's gonna cost you something. Here's my advice. If we're going to live our lives based on feelings, you better bring your wallet because it's going to cost you something. Feelings are funny things and will cause us to believe things and do things that we have no business doing. And so be careful about, when you deal with facts, I shop at Kroger now. You know why? Because they're so much cheaper than Publix and they give me gas points. Whenever I spend $100, I get 10 cents off of gas. I'm saving money. Guess where I'm shopping? Where do I want to shop? Based on my emotions, I want to go back to Publix. I love those folks. But based on saving some money, I'm shopping there. And when you're in ministry, you've got to save money. So I'm shopping at Kroger. They won me over based on facts. And so here's some common claims that relativism tries to come up with. And these are all what we call self-defeating statements. There is no truth. Anybody tell me why that's a self-defeating statement?
Because everybody has an opinion on it.
No, is that
You're
true?
claiming that that is.
Ooh, there you go.
Is that true?
Is that true? Yeah, if you're saying there is no truth, how do you know that's true? Do you see what I'm saying? It's a self-defeating statement. Here's another one. All truth is relative. Well, if all truth is relative, then your truth is relative.
Yes.
It's not true at all. It's a self-defeating statement. How about this? You can't know the truth. I've heard that. You know how many times I've heard that? We can't know the truth about anything. Well, how do you know that's true? If you can't know the truth, how do you know you can't know the truth is true? You can't. And now we're going to get into some really good ones, really. There's some good. This is. I cannot speak a word of English. Okay, you can laugh at. I just spoke English when I said I can't speak. That's basically what they're saying. How about this one? I refuse to talk to you right now. Well, I just talked to you in that way, but we're going to dive in the deep end of the pool. It's gonna hurt some people, so we gotta take a look at this. Here we go. Lord help me. Oof. See, we get that as Christians all the time. All the time. From liberals, we get that all the time. That's why I call it the mic drop moment. Because but here's the thing. Aren't you forcing your morality on me by telling me I can't force my morality on you? Like, who gets to do it? You can't make the statement and expect to live it out. You can't do that. And so that doesn't work. But how about this one? Woo-hoo-hoo. Oh my goodness, if I had a penny for every time I've heard that one. You shouldn't judge. Well, first of all, you're not a theologian. Let me just start off by saying that. Second of all, aren't you judging me by saying you shouldn't judge? Who gets to do it? You can't have it both ways. You either get to judge or you don't get to judge, but you can't tell me not to judge because you're judging me judging you. It doesn't work out. That doesn't work. Here's I found a movie scene that satisfies my feelings when I think about these. That's all I can do. Just a big face part. Like, are you kidding me? So let's deal with it. Absolute truth. Everybody say this: that which corresponds with reality.
That which corresponds with reality.
That's what absolute truth is. It corresponds with reality. Yes, that is worth clapping for. Absolute truth. Here's some absolute truth. Truth is absolute when it is true for all people in all places and all times. Truth is absolute when it's true for all people in all places at all times. Let me give you an example of this. I know it's coming to. There's going to be one of you out there. Where are you? Water is wet. Why do you look like you're about to challenge me on that? I always have one go, no it's not, it makes things wet. And I'm like, okay, it can't make something wet if it's not the essence of wet itself. Water is wet, and anyways. That's true for all people, in all places, all time. Here's another one.
Wait a minute.
People need food to live. That's true for all people in all places, all time. That's never not true. There's never been a time in history where people went, I went 10 years without eating. I'm fine. That's never happened. There's never been a people group that were like, we can live. I remember seeing this documentary one time. This lady who she ate the sun. I forget how that worked, but she took her nutrients in by staring at the sun, and I just had to ask myself, like, in 3 years from now, her retina's completely burned out, but you have to have food to live. And here's another one. World War II ended in 1945. That will never not be true. It doesn't matter how much time goes on or what part of the world I stand in. That's always going to be true. That's what absolute truth is. This one, sadly as it is, Joe Biden was the president in 2023. That will never not be true. That will never not, no matter which political side you stand on or don't stand on, that will never not be true. In 2023, he was the president. It could be 300 years from now, that statement's still going to be true. And it can be said by anyone, anywhere. It's true for all people in all places at all times. And so let's move right on into it. This is an actual billboard with, I don't understand why atheist.org spends so much time arguing against a God they don't believe in. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Just get church, it's all fake news. And they usually put these up around the time of Christmas, and they're trying to influence passersby to that's all fake, don't worry about it. So I want to take you to the point that changed my life. I told you about this. This is Cornelius Tacitus, biography of Nero, circa 64 AD. Yeah. Now, this is not political at all, but here's what I'm saying. When CNN reports on Trump, this is during his first administration, when CNN reports on Trump, they don't want to. What they're doing, though, is they're solidifying that moment in history because it's enemy testimony. If you get Fox is much more of a right-wing, media outlet. When they report on it, whatever. They want you to, you know what I'm saying? Like when CNN does it, it's enemy testimony. When enemies testify about you, that is stronger testimony than your friends do. Does that make sense? And so when we look at Cornelius Tacitus, he was a Roman. He was not a friend of the faith. And here's what Cornelius Tacitus wrote. There was a fire, and Nero was trying to blame the Christians just to catch you up. And he said, Nero substitutes culprits and punished in the most unusual ways those hated for their shameful acts, whom the crowd called Christians. The founder of this name, Christ, Christus in Latin, had been, now listen to this, had been executed in the reign of Tiberius by the procurator Pontius Pilate, suppressed for a time. I love this part. Suppressed for a time. Take a stab at what that might mean. The deadly superstition, because again, he's not a friend of the faith. He's documenting history, though. Right. The deadly superstition erupted again, not only in Judea, the origins of this evil, but also in the city of Rome. Okay, so let's see. Because you drove yourself here, that means you can do amazing things. Here's what I want you to do. Can you sit on the floor? Okay, sit on the floor right here. What's your name? Madison, that's an awesome name. Madison is about to blow your mind, okay? All right, Madison is about to hover up and touch this beam and then back down to the floor. And it's going to be amazing. Madison, I've seen her do it before. Go ahead, Madison. Go ahead. That was not very close at all. It was fast. I mean, it was fast. It was so fast I didn't even see it. All right, Madison, one more shot. We got to get this done. No, you can't. No, you got to stay seated Indian style. You got to hover up and touch the beam. All right, Madison. Thank you. You were awesome. That was very. If I'm going to start a rumor that Madison can do that, am I going to start it in Judea, where the origin of this evil existed? No, I'm going to go back to Georgia, and I'm going to be like, this girl Madison not only drove herself to church on her own accord on a Tuesday night, but she sat on the floor and hovered like 9 feet in the air and touched this beat. It was amazing. Now, when I get back to Georgia, can anybody disprove me? No. Because you're here in where? Idaho? But here, if I'm going to start a rumor, why would I do it right here where you guys can all call me out on it? Because every one of you, all you got to do is just go, hey, Madison, get over here and touch that beam. And then you would prove me wrong. The fact that Cornelius is saying, look, this didn't start in Asia. This didn't start in lower Africa. This didn't start in far Europe. Right where the Christian story begins, that's where it started. In the very same place that people could have said, hey, I know where he is. Just roll back the stone and I'll show you his rotten body inside there. They could have said that. So Pliny the Younger, and yes, he had a dad named Pliny the Elder. He's writing again. He's Roman. He's not a friend. And I love this. They were in a habit of meeting on a certain fixed day before it was light. And the reason why I love that is that's the beginning of Sunday church. When you hear people ask, why do we not meet on the Sabbath, which is Saturday? Well, technically Friday sundown to Saturday sundown, which we held a Jewish Christian festival one time in support against Palestine down in Atlanta. Don't do it on a Friday night. By about 3 o'clock, there was none of us left there. There was 1,200 Palestinians. There was 30 Christians, and all the Jews had left because it was Sabbath. They had to go prepare. So just a little side note, if you're ever going to hold a rally, don't do it on Friday night. He's saying a certain fixed day because it was different. It was different than what they were used to. They were used to Sabbath being Friday night to Saturday night, sundown. And he was saying, look, they met, and he said even before it was light, when they sang an anthem to Christ as God. This is back 106 AD, and already he's saying, look, they were admiring Christ as God. So when you hear these people say, well, that didn't happen until 300s, that he was made God, that's not, I can give you example after example of why that's not true. Here's one, and here's my preacher point. And bound themselves to a solid oath not to commit any wicked deed. Listen, folks, if we were all to get together in this room by the time we leave tonight and say, look, we're going to hold each other accountable, that we're not going to talk bad about anybody, we're not going to go mistreat anybody, we're going to figure out how we can help the community around us, and we all bound ourselves by oath to that, we could change this community. I'm convinced of that. It's Pastor and I were talking about intentionality. You are a pastor, right? No. I'm prophesying now. Future pastor. He's like, I don't want that job. I don't blame you, brother. It's the toughest job I've ever had. sound
Communication.
and communications extraordinaire. How about that? He is incredible. He has all this fancy equipment. I'm just drooling over it. I don't think I drooled on any of the equipment. What the heck was I talking about? I have ADD. Oh, yeah. If we bound ourselves together and committed to just do right, you know what I'm saying? We literally could change our communities around us. I believe that. Last one I'm going to share with you, and this is kind of funny. I might go back and change this. This is Josephus, and he's probably one of the most famous ones. He's a Jew. He's enemy testimony. Jews, just in case you don't know historically, did not like this Christian movement at all. Completely opposed to it. And so the reason why I say I might go back and redo this, because there's another text that he has that's actually like fully incriminating. But I stopped using it because I thought that somebody had interpolated some stuff into there to make it sound more like you know what I'm saying? Like they messed with the text, and I want to just be truthful. You know, I don't need to stretch stuff. I want to know what the truth is. But I read an article the other day from a guy who studied Josephus for the past 40 years and studied all of his languages and all of his writings. And he went back to the passage that I thought was in question, and he says, no, these are terms that he would have used because he's used them in other places. And he basically validated, the biggest expert on Josephus, validated the text. And I was like, that's an interesting turn of events. So I'm going to share one with you that I don't think takes any far leaps or anything like that. This is what he writes. Annas, thinking he had a favorable opportunity because Festus had died, and Albinus was still on his way, called a meeting of the Sanhedrin of judges and brought into him the brother of Jesus, who is called Messiah, James by name, and some others, and made the accusation that they had transgressed the law, and he handed them over to be stoned. That's huge. Why? Where was James when Jesus was alive? I mean, think about it. Your brother's claiming to be God. You could be like, weirdo, you know, like something happened to James, and we're going to get into that in just a minute, that totally transformed the way he thought about things. And totally changed it to the point where he was willing to be handed over and be stoned because he wouldn't turn. So I want to close this section with this. That's He Walked Among Us by Josh McDowell. That's got over 48 clear historical references to the existence of Jesus outside of the Bible. Basically, you could take the Bible and throw it away. Don't do that, but you could take it, throw it away, and still find out everything you needed to know about first century and second century attestation for it. That's a huge, that was the thing that changed my life and changed my walk when I got to that point, because again, I thought he was just a myth up until that point. So that's I would highly suggest that. So Messianic prophecies in the Old Testament, there's over 300 that were given, and what we're going to do is we're going to break that down to a much smaller number and just look at what are the odds that he could fulfill those prophecies. What are the odds? And so what are the odds of doing that? You guys like odds? I just do. The odds of bowling a perfect game of 300, ready? 11,500 to 1. So if you're a bowler, bowl a little over 11,000 games, and you have a good chance at bowling. If you bowl 11,500 games, there better be a perfect one out of that somewhere. This next video has nothing to do with anything, except for I found it and went, oh. You ready to see why? So the dude is about to do it. This is it. He's about to throw that ball down the lane, and he's about to bowl his perfect game. Watch what happens.
Everybody's come down to check this out. Looking for perfection, 300. Oh my God.
That's just terrible.
Did you see that? He was working on 300 on a demanding lane condition, and the rack came down right before the ball.
Can you imagine?
Hit the pins.
That guy's bowled 11,500 games, gets to that moment, and it looked like it was about to strike again. And then,
Did they give him a mulligan?
Like I said, that has nothing to do with my talk. I just ran into that and I was like, that's really odd. That'll fit really well right there. Anyways, so the odds of winning an Olympic medal, this is pretty crazy to think about. 662,000 to 1. That's your odds of winning an Olympic medal. And the reason why I say that is because we spend so much. Here's my soapbox. We spend so much time getting our kids to and from practice, it's never going to do anything for them. I have one talk where I get to the end of my talk, I'm like, your kid's got a 0.03 chance of becoming a professional athlete, got a 0.3 chance of becoming a millionaire. I go through this little stat, like and then at the end I say, got a 100% chance of meeting Jesus one day. Which one's your priority? So anyways, that's my soapbox. The odds of being in a plane crash, this is pretty good. 1,200,000 to 1. And that's good, because I do a lot of flying. What's worse than that, of being in a car crash, is much less, 5,000 to 1. So when the pilot lands and says your safest part of your journey is now over, he really means it. What about being struck by lightning? That's pretty good. 576,000 to 1. So you can go out and play in a lightning storm. You should be fine, according to the odds. But here's the good news: if you do get struck, you can tell your parents the odds of dying are 2,320,000 to 1. So you should be pretty good. So that's just kind of a look at odds. So the odds that Jesus could fulfill just 8 of the 300 Old Testament prophecies. What does that look like? When we put that into numbers, if he fulfilled just 8, not 300, just 8. This is a crazy stat. It's 1 quintillion to 1. That's a big, giant number. That's a 10 with 17 zeros behind it. It's what's called a statistical improbability. It's not on paper. Any accountants in here? No? Good. Accountants are weird. My wife's an accountant, so I can say that. People that love to crunch numbers, if they crunch the numbers, they can tell you it's statistically impossible. Here's what the odds look like. If I go to the state of Texas, and I was in the state of Texas one time and gave this talk, and everybody's like, woo! Forgot where I was. I got a little excited about this illustration. If you take $50 and you spread them out all over Texas, and it's about 2 feet deep, all the way throughout the entire state of Texas, and at some point you're going to drop one red one, but you have no idea where it is, right? Here's what a statistical impossibility looks like. I'm going to give you one chance blindfolded to walk the state of Texas. You can walk it for as many years as you want. You can walk it 30, 40 years if you want. But you got one chance to bend over, blindfolded, and pick up the red silver dollar. That's the chances of Jesus fulfilling just 8 of the Messianic prophecies in the way that he did. And again, it's called a statistical impossibility. The probability is so low as to not be worth mentioning. That's a quote I found, and I was like, oh, I like that. It's so low, it's not even worth talking about. So here's the prophecies. Now I'm going to go through these rather quickly, so if you take a picture when I'm done or something like that if you want to. Be born in Bethlehem. Would be sacrificed for sin. Child would be massacred at Messiah's birthplace. Messiah would be rejected by his own people. He'd be declared the Son of God. He'd be betrayed. There's 6 right there. If anybody wants to take a picture, you can take a picture. There's your Old Testament prophecy and your New Testament fulfillment. And then the next one is Messiah would be crucified with criminals. The next one is Messiah's hands and feet would be pierced. There's your 8. I'm going to give you a few more. Soldiers would gamble for his clothes. Pierce Messiah's side. Messiah would be resurrected from the dead. Messiah would be born of a virgin birth. There's 12. I went 4 beyond the 8. And he's fulfilled over 300 of them. Do you know what that number looks like when we put 300 of them? It's a number that's inconceivable to even write out on paper. It's inconceivable that he's not the truth. He absolutely fulfilled the truth 100%. So now let's talk about the way, because there's a lot of ways to heaven. I mean, you heard Steve talk about it. There's all kinds of ways. There's 800 channels, and everybody's entertained. I'm sure there's more than one way. Let's talk about it. So we're going to go over to the Buddha, and I'm only going to talk about Buddha, Islam, because those are the 2 biggest religions in the world. There's Judaism, which would come in there, but we're a Judeo-Christian faith, so it's not worth going into that avenue. But the Buddha, there's over 400. Can I get on a soapbox? Are we friends and family in here? This March for Peace is driving me nuts, because churches are opening up their doors, and I'm all for that. Like but they're doing it in such a way where they're recognizing the movement. All those men walking are headed straight to hell. I'm not trying to be hellfire and brimstone. I'm just telling you, without Jesus, you're not going to get to God. And listen, from somebody who lived a life without peace for the first 29, almost 30 years of my life, without God, you're not finding peace without the peace giver.
Praise God.
And these monks are walking to Washington, D.C. from Texas or something like that, and they're the walk for peace, and people are coming out by the droves and worshiping them as they go by. They're praying to them and stuff, and I'm thinking, guys, this is just false. Do we love people enough to tell them the truth? So here's you can go to buddhanet.net, which is just fun to say, and you can look this up yourself. That's why I put the link down at the bottom. The first Buddhist council collected together and arranged the Buddhist scriptures known as the Pali Tipitaka, which has since been handed down from one generation of monks to the other. In the early days of Buddhism, Siddhartha Gautama was the first Buddha, and he was alive about 600 BC. From 600 BC till this point, in the early days of Buddhism, there was no written record of the teachings. The monks had to memorize the scriptures and then teach them to the next generation of monks in the same way of being an oral tradition. Okay, let me just give you a little side note. Christianity and Judaism has never been just an oral tradition. The amount of effort that has gone into preserve God's word through the scribes, through the ones who would copy the text and be responsible for it, is enormous. Scribes would go to school until they're 30 years old before they can even start to put pen to paper. And then it takes them another 6 to 7 years before they've put pen to paper long enough that they're trusted to make an actual copy of it. You're almost 40 before you start living out your purpose. That's dedication. So this doesn't apply, whereas they're admitting to it, saying, look, it was an oral tradition, they had to memorize it. So here's the problem with oral traditions is this. You got the first monk who says, don't sweat the small stuff. And that's good advice. I'm not going to lie about that. I think that's good advice. But he passes it to the next monk who says, don't stop to smell stuff. That's what he remembers. And that's good advice too, because listen, especially kids, like youth, like boys, if a boy grabs something and says, here, smell this, just don't. There's never going to be a chance where that works out in your favor. Just don't do it. So that's good advice. He tells the next monk, and he says, don't stop till you smell enough. Well, that's also good advice. Not anything like the rest of them, but that's also good advice because, listen, stop and smell the roses. You know what I'm saying? Like that's all good advice, but it has nothing to do with the original. And then this guy comes along, he says, don't stop till you get enough. That's what he remembered. And I'm thinking, wait a second, I know where he got that. Now wait for it. Ready? The only time you're ever going to see dancing monks. Listen, we've got to have fun with what we're doing, man. I'm not picking on anybody, but we're just having fun. I mean, I feel for Buddhists because they have this Buddha. I have several friends who are Buddhists, and they have this opinion that I seek to know nothing so that I can know everything. That's kind of their motto. I want to know things. You know what I'm saying? I serve a God of facts. I serve a God of truth. I serve a God who has revealed himself through creation and through his scriptures. And I want to know things about my existence. I want to know why I wake up every day. So that whole concept of I seek to know nothing so that I can know everything, that just bothers me. So here's the nuts and bolts to it though. About 83 BC. So remember I said he was alive in the 600s. So it's 500 plus years later, during the reign of that guy, that thing, I can't say any of those words, held in Sri Lanka, the Pali Tipitaka, for the first time in history of Buddhism, was put down in writing on olive leaves. 500 plus years have gone by since what Siddhartha Gautama said to the time it was written down. Do you think there's any room for error in 500 plus years? No. Or yes. I was thinking of the scriptures and how close the scriptures are to one another and how there's no room for error because there wasn't enough time. This is crazy. This is why when I had my experience, I said, if you're God, do something about it. I went to study Buddhism and I got to this point and I'm like, well, do you know that Buddhism is an atheistic religion? One of the first things Buddha said, Siddhartha Gautama, he said, there is no God. So then why do you go to the Chinese restaurants and they burn incense to him, they feed him, they put coins on him, treating him as though he's God? Why are they treating these monks as though they're God, as they're walking for peace, when Buddha said there is no God? So obviously, that's not the God who touched my life. I came to that conclusion. So the next one I went to was Islam, because Islam, I was not saved in 2001, but that day just still haunts me to this day. There's 1.8 billion, 24% of the population of the earth is Islam. 24%. 1 every 4 persons alive is Muslim. And so I started studying Islam because I thought, if they're willing to blow themselves up into buildings, they must know the truth. You know, that zeal, I don't see Christians doing that, so that must be the thing. And so I went back, again, I wanted to know, so I went back to the beginning of Islam, and that's where it all started, right there at that cave. And so he goes up, Muhammad goes up to that cave, and he has his first revelation, and then his second and his third, and he has these revelations from from the angel Gabriel, which is, yes, the same angel Gabriel that we have in our Bible. They're stealing that Gabriel over there. And so I want to show you something about Islam, though, as far as their theology. The Quran's written in such a way where there's 114 surahs and 286 verses descending, there's 114 surahs that go from 286 verses to 3. So it starts with the longest surah because of the verses and ends with the shortest. So it's not in chronological order whatsoever. When you read it, it's super broken up. It's very hard to piece it together. And if you ask a Muslim scholar, they're going to tell you that. Here's the other part of that. 86 of them are Meccan, and that was the peaceful ones. And then that 28 Medinian, those are the ones cut your head off. Slay them where you find them. Because what happened was, he was in Mecca when this all started, and he's writing out these somewhat peaceful ones that, God is mercy and all this stuff. And then his people reject him. And when he's got rejected, he goes to Medina. And when he's in Medina, he gets his Medinian verses written to the point where now it's like, slay them where you find them, cut their hands off, cut their heads off. And that's where he went to his deathbed, was saying, kill him. He was a warring leader. He was a blood leader. That's what he claimed to be. If you want to know what Islam really looks like, look at ISIS. And I'm an expert on Islam. I have a course that's three classes long that I teach on the fun. It's called Islam for Dummies, and it breaks down. And I'm just telling you, there's no such thing as a peaceful Muslim. Let me clarify that before I move on. If I stand in a garage, does that make me a car? No. If I stand in a church, does that make me a Christian? No. If I stand in a mosque, does that make me a Muslim? No. There's a lot of Muslims who claim by heritage to be Muslim, but their faith isn't any stronger than anybody else I've ever seen who claims Christ and never goes to church, never prays, never reads their Bible. You know what I'm saying? Like, it takes action to be what you are, and to be a Christian, it takes intention to do the things that we do for God and not just say the things we do. And so there's a lot of Muslims who by tradition call themselves that, but they're not. There's no such thing as a peaceful Muslim, though, if they're truly Muslim, because the Quran, Islam means submission at its core. That's what the translation of Islam means. Their goal is world domination and submission to Allah and Muhammad as his prophet. That's their goal. And until they reach that goal, and I dare you to go, especially go where I'm going, and go up to a Muslim and say, your Quran's wrong. I dare you. You're not coming home. He's not alive. So this is the crazy part, because people say, well, there's juxtaposing views within the Quran. One says this, one says that. How does that work? This is Surah chapter 16, verse 101. And when we see the substitute a verse in place of a verse, and Allah is most knowing of what he sends down, they say, you, O Muhammad, are but an inventor of lies, but most of them do not know. And they disbelieve or scheme to kill Jesus, and Allah schemed too, and Allah is the best of the schemers. So here's what it's saying. There's a law of abrogation. If Allah supposedly gave Muhammad a vision at one point in Mecca, and then he completely changed it, it's okay, because Allah can change his mind, because Allah is the best schemer that's out there. His ways of scheme. If you came up to me and said, I want you to be a Christian, let me tell you about Jesus, the schemer. You lost me. I don't want a schemer of a God, you know what I mean? But in the Quran, it admits that Allah can change his mind. That's okay. It's a law of abrogation. And it's okay because Allah is a schemer, the best of them. Yes?
I was wondering how many Christians would be willing to bow down 5 times during the day towards Jerusalem. Let's say if God asked us to do that, and which he did not. But how many of us would be willing to be that devoted? I mean, it's really kind of amazing their dedication to such a lost cause.
Yeah, but they have to. See that?
Yeah.
See, here's the thing about Christianity. Christians can accept the gospel of Jesus because it's through grace, not faith, right? Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like we can, the cross has been paid for, regardless of what we do. It's been paid for, right? So we can accept that payment on the cross, and then a lot of folks get in this mentality of, I've got my get out of jail free card, and I'm good. I'm going to kind of navigate this that way. In Islam, they don't know. In Islam, the salat, the prayer, has to be said, and just for you to be considered to enter. You're not even guaranteed entry, because if you didn't pray right, if you didn't get your little compass down and face Mecca right, then you're not getting there. Allah's not going to let you in. So they don't even have guarantee. We have guarantee of salvation because of the cross. They don't even have it That's why they're so dedicated to it. I kind of want to be like, Christians, we're guaranteed that. Shouldn't we more so live it out? But instead, we kind of fall back a little bit and we just rely on the grace. They don't have grace to rely on.
That'll preach.
It will preach. So here's the thing. If you ask a Muslim scholar, they're going to admit to this. There's the Quran, but you have to have these two books that are the Hadith, which is the commentary, because again, it's not written in chronological order or anything. It's very hard to understand. So the Hadith breaks it down into commentary, and then you have to have the Sirat, which is a whole series of books, which is the autobiography, or the biography rather, of Muhammad. So in order to understand the book in the middle, you've got to have all of these books just to help you understand the book in the middle, which is why they don't really study it very much. Usually what happens in Islam, then I need to move on, I can get on this. It's an important conversation we need to have because they're right up the road from me is a terrorist organization camp that two of the 9/11 terrorists trained at. You can come to my house, I'll drive you right by there. There's 3 men sitting in a white truck out of the end of the driveway, and if you drive by too slow, they'll follow you down the road and make sure you don't go there. And when I asked an FBI, GBI, a friend of mine, how can they do terrorist training right there? Same constitutional right that protects you protects them. Somebody within them is an American citizen, and because they have the Constitution, they can have whatever, just like we could hold tactical training at your house if we want to do, because it's our constitutional right to do so. So it's very frustrating, but my point is, they're here. They're
Pursuit of happiness, right?
So here's, and I'm going to run through this real quick just for sake of time. Here's the very first vision that Muhammad got. This is coming out of the Quran. It says, read in the name of your Lord who created. He created man from a clean form. Read, your Lord is the most bountiful one who taught by pen, who taught man what he did not know. Does that make any sense? It makes no sense whatsoever. So we have to go over the Hadith. This is that's the Hadith book 1, chapter 3. It's explaining what we just read because it doesn't make any sense. The angel came to him and asked him to read, and the prophet replied, I do not know how to read. So that's already a problem for me. We have an illiterate man. Sorry, that's just a side note. I have a problem with that. The prophet added, the angel caught me forcefully and pressed me so hard that I cannot bear it anymore. Now keep in mind, this is Gabriel. What did Gabriel do when he came to earth?
Announced the birth.
Announced that he, fear not. The first thing he said was, fear not. I bring good news and great news of joy. Like he was, and if you worshiped him, you'd say, get up, stand up, fear not. So this is just not the same character that we see. And again, he asked me to read, and I replied, I don't know how to read. Thereupon he caught me again and pressed me for a second time. I could not bear it anymore. He again asked me to read, but again I replied, I don't know how to read, or what shall I read? And that's just a confusing thing. It's like he doesn't even have anything to read. Here, read. And he's like, I don't even see anything to read. Thereupon, I'm not making this up. This is in there. This is their stuff. Thereupon he caught me for a third time and pressed me, and then he released me and said, read in the name of your Lord who created man from a clot. Still doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So we go over to the Sirat, which is the Sirat Rasul Allah, page 106, and this is one of the most accurate ones. There's a few different versions of the biography, but this one's the most accepted one. So I read it, and we never figured out what he was reading, and he, Gabriel, departed from me, and I awoke from my sleep, and it was as though these words were written on my heart. I thought, woe is me, poet or possessed. He wasn't sure if he was this newfound poet, because if you read the Quran in Arabic, it sounds beautiful. So he was like, I'm not sure if I'm a poet or if I'm possessed. Never shall Quraysh, which is his hometown tribe, say this of me. He was afraid if he goes home and spreads this new news, this new revelation, that his own people were going to reject him. So he says, never will they say this of me. I will go to the top of the mountain and throw myself down, that I may kill myself and gain rest. That's how Islam started. He wanted to kill himself. It was Khadijah, his cousin, who he married. He worked for her dad, his uncle, in the export and trade industry. And then he ended up marrying Khadijah. She was his first convert and convinced him that these were not possessions. These were angelic visits. So he went forth to do so. And when I heard the voice from heaven saying, O Muhammad, thou art the apostle of God, and I am Gabriel. That's how Islam started. That's not good for me. I'm not. And so if you don't believe me that literally the people of Quraysh said this is chapter 44, verse 14 in the Quran. They turn away from him saying he is tutored but possessed. They literally in the Quran it says of the founder, he's a smart guy. We're not denying that, but he's possessed. So I ask you this: what's there's the prophet's mosque. That's where his whatever burial clothes they put there. There's a temple of the tooth. I'm not making that up. Buddha literally has a tooth in the temple. That's pretty impressive. I know in the prophet's mosque there's a beard hair, so Maybe I can be that. Like I can leave a beard here in a museum when I'm gone. Joseph Smith of Mormonism. There's his. There's Confucius, and then there's this tomb, the tomb of Jesus, which I do believe that's the one. It's the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, and the garden tomb. I don't think it matches. Okay, but that's another talk for another time. The difference between all of those tombs is Jesus walked out of his. You can go to the other tomb and you can find evidence for that person's death. You can't find evidence for Jesus' death. So how can we really know that Jesus rose from the dead? That's going to be the challenge that I want to leave us with. I'm going to start to close and land the plane. How can we really know? It's kind of pretty easy, because really from the onset, when Jesus saw his mother and the disciple whom he loved standing there nearby, first of all, his mother was there, and if she didn't think that if she didn't know that she had given birth by a virgin birth, that he was the Messiah because of that one category being filled, she would have stopped it. No mother's going to watch their son being beat like he was beat. Okay. Not on this earth. No, I don't even care how much they hate their kid. Nobody's going to stand by and watch. The fact that she stood by and watched it was because she couldn't deny the truth. But then it says this: the disciple whom he loved standing. Where was the rest of them? On one of the most important moments of his life, he's hanging on the cross and he's been completely abandoned. They're gone. So Sean McDowell's Josh McDowell's son. I'm going to let him say this. It's a real short snippet, but he did his doctrinal thesis on the death of the apostles, the martyrdom of the apostles, and I think he cleaned it up a good bit, because we used to say they all died, and I don't know that's accurately true, and I'll let him talk.
Did the apostles really die as martyrs? One of the most common arguments that people often make for the resurrection is that the apostles saw Jesus risen from the grave, and they were willing to go, whether it was beating, stoned, burned, crucified, to their graves, except for John, refusing to recant that belief. Well, the question is that really true? I've spent the last 3 years tracing down these stories and these legends and the history, probably more than anybody has. And here's a couple quick things that I found. Number one, we have good reason to believe that at least 4 of the apostles, Peter, Paul, and both James, the son of Zebedee, and James, the brother of Jesus, died as martyrs. There's early, consistent testimony from Christian sources, non-Christian sources, the Bible, extra-biblical sources that they died. But then Andrew and Thomas, we have some good evidence. It's not as strong. It's a little bit later. But I think there's good reason to think that they may have died as martyrs as well. We're dealing with the late 2nd, early 3rd century. The rest of the apostles, whether Matthias, Bartholomew, Philip, Matthew, Simon the Zealot, the reality is the stories for them are late, they're contradictory, they're inconsistent, and we don't really know when history ends and when legend begins. Does this mean the argument is bad? No, here's the key. The key is not to show that they actually all died as martyrs. The key is to show their willingness to die as martyrs. We can actually establish this just by looking at the book of Acts. We see starting in Acts 2, the apostles start preaching and proclaiming the risen Jesus. They're threatened, they're beaten, they're thrown in prison. And in fact, we even see in Acts 7, Stephen who's killed, and in Acts 12 too, James, the son of Zebedee, is killed. What this shows, the apostles weren't liars. They weren't making this up. They really believed that Jesus had risen from the grave, and they were willing to suffer and die for it. We have no evidence that any of them recanted, and we actually have good evidence that some of them died. So here's the bottom line. The apostles were not liars. They really believed that they had seen the risen Jesus, which makes me wonder, what else could ancient witnesses have done to convince us of the sincerity of their beliefs?
And so you've got Peter, who's over here by the fire, and Jesus says, you're going to deny me 3 times before the rooster crows. He abandoned him at the cross. He was sitting over here saying, I don't know him, I don't know him. What would cause him to go to an upside-down crucifix? We know that's accurate because that's the history's there. What would mentally cause me to do that? You went from abandoning him to dying on an upside down. He died on an upside down cross because he refused to die in the same manner that the Messiah did. That's how powerful that was. There's only one exception. He had to have seen the risen Christ. Thomas is one of my favorite ones, and Thomas, we've got good evidence for that. He's one of the 6 that's listed. Thomas is like the doubter. He goes, I want to stick my hand in the spear wound. Like I need to, and ironically, the way that Thomas died was by a spear wound. What went from doubting Thomas going, I'm just not sure about this whole thing, abandoning at the cross, willing to go for a martyr's death? Well, it was because he saw the risen Christ. There's only one. There's only one way it's going to happen. James, he's like, vast and distant throughout Scripture because he's like, my brother is God. He makes that claim now, and all of a sudden, James goes to his death by getting stoned to death. We saw that in the attestation from Pliny's or Josephus, and so we know these things to be true. And so, is he the way? Absolutely. There's only one
Amen.
way that somebody can come back from the dead, prove themselves to be God, and proclaim to be the way. Nobody else can proclaim to be the way. Nobody. That's just a fact of history. There's only one person who can make that claim, and it's Christ. And so I want to focus on this last part, the life. Now I conceptually realize that's me. That was probably about 30 days or less right before I met the Lord. And like I get that that's me, but I don't recognize that guy. You know what I'm saying? Like I mean, look at the depth in my eyes, and my face was sunken in. I mean, I was a 105, 110 pound meth addict that was so hopeless.
Cigarette, is it?
That's a Marlboro menthol.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Oh yeah, it's a cigarette hanging out of my mouth. I was the king of selfies before selfies were invented with phones. Like I would take the 32 millimeter or whatever that was, and I would so I did that day, and I never forget. I was going to give my testimony for the first time after I got saved, and I was like, I really want to find I wish I could capture who I was before, and I found that picture, and I was like, look at the death in my eyes. I mean, I just that. So is he the life? Because he said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. We accomplished the truth and the way easily, but is he the life? Yes, because he's come to give us life now. You see, here's the thing: Jesus is the only way to heaven. That's it. But he's come to give us life now, and that's why we need to know these things so that we can combat them in the streets, in our homes, in our churches. God forbid, in our school systems, all these different places. We need to be able to give these arguments. We need to be able to say, here's why I know that. Because if we just walk up to somebody and say, Jesus is the way. No, he's not. You know how many ways there are? We've got to be able to come up with a response to that. And so I hope tonight, I know I opened up a floodgate and gave you a whole bunch of information, and you'll probably retain about 3% because that's what our brains are able to do. But I want to encourage you. We have a free app. If you don't want to pay $4.99 a month, not gonna lie, the $4.99 a month helps us. It helps support our ministry, but it's $4.99 a month. We can't make it any simpler than that. Which this is broken down even further on that. But we have a free app. It's just go to R4H and on your app store. It's a black background with a blue asterisk. Reasons for Hope. Type in one of those. It's a free app, and it's loaded with content. So if you can't retain it all, that's fine. We've got a free app that we can give you that is loaded with content. And so, yeah, turning it back over to you now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Amen. Oh, I told you. I even put this on the table. I have books over there. I think they're like $10, $15 a suggested donation. I don't have a credit card machine. I didn't remember to bring my QR code reader or anything like that. So if you don't have any money, but you'll read the book, just take one, okay? Just take one of the books that are over there. It's fine. This one I wrote. It'll always be my favorite book, no matter how many I wrote. It's got my personal testimony. It's like I'm sitting on the front porch just having a conversation with you as we're talking through life. And it's called How, Why, Where. How did we get here? Why are we here? And where do we go when we die? It's the 3 biggest questions that anybody's got to face. And so there's that. There's some curriculum over there that I wrote, the Faith Survival Guide. And then there's answers books that I've contributed to, and then these are my favorite. These are the zoo guides, and you can put these in your pocket, and they're full of graphics and information. And you can go to the zoo and be the hero in your family, because you can literally lead people through the zoo as an expert. But here's the thing, from a godly perspective, it's all creation perspective.
Cool. Thank you. All right, so. If you'd like to hear more from Dave, he's going to be speaking throughout the week at churches and schools around the valley on a variety of different topics. Wow. He's got a really great talk on the Shroud of Turin, the cloth that is purported to be the
proposed burial cloth that he was put in when he was taken down off the cross.
Yeah.
And I've got with me one of only 5 in the world replicas that were made in 1978. So,
can I ask you real quick your thoughts on it?
What's that?
What do you think?
Real quick.
If you
Come-
30 seconds or less.
I'll give you my 10-second version. I don't know what else it could be.
Oh.
All I present is scientific anomalies that have been peer reviewed. I don't present garbage. I present scientifically peer reviewed evidences on the shroud, on the evidence for the shroud. I don't know what else it could be. So whenever somebody comes up with a way to explain it, I'm all ears. You know, my faith rests on the martyr's death and things like that. Like my faith in the resurrection is locked in history.
Okay.
But boy, the Shroud of Turin is it's a conversation piece, man. It's very, very cool.
Okay.
So also Foundations in Genesis Idaho, the local Creation Apologetics organization that hosted the seminar tonight. We do field trips in the local Treasure Valley, Hawaii area. We've got one coming up on February 21st, going to Oriana. It's down by Grandview area, looking at geology, fossils, and different things like that. So
I just want to go on that.
Yeah, me too. But that's the morning of our men's breakfast, so I'll be here for that. But yeah.
I'm trying to stay.
And then at the end of this month, we've got our next speaker, Massey Campos, coming out. We've got bulletins over there with information.
And a plug on Massey. He's a part of our. It's not a part of our ministry, but he's one of our ministry affiliates that we work a lot with. He comes to all of our camp stuff. You're going to want to be there for that. He is an expert on constitutional Christianity, and will paint pictures of our history here in America that I could listen to it. And I'm not even a historian. Like, I kind of get bored with stuff. I could listen to that for days.
Yeah, so that'll be good. Check out all the info over there. We also got a little red bucket if you'd like to support Foundations in Genesis. We're entirely volunteer run and donor supported, so we would appreciate that. It also helps us be able to bring in great speakers like Dave. Robert, do you have
I
something?
was just gonna say, we also, if you look on our bulletins, there's a website, and you can sign up for the field trip, and also if you want any more information about what we do, it's on there. One of the other things that we're working on is Melody Dunn does our field trips, and she has some fossil cases, and then she brings them around. She had another commitment, otherwise she'd have been here today. But we're trying to put together like someplace between a 24 and a 30-foot trailer to put all our stuff in, so we can bring it out and park it in the parking lot and have everybody go through it and get kind of a hands-on and more on what, you know, what's really going on locally and around the world as far as, you know, geology and rocks and fossils and the true statement. I mean, it's been, you know, I don't know, well, I think 14 years since they found blood cells in dinosaurs, and I don't know how many of you have heard about it, but it's never been really published.
Well, I'll tell you this much: the guy who's kind of heading that up, Mark Armitage. When I was interviewing him the last time, he said we need to stop calling dinosaur bones fossils because they're not fossils. They still have living stuff inside of them.
Wow.
So that blows open the fact that, you know, our Bible is true. It's this earth is not that old. And when you find dinosaur bones with red blood cells and soft tissue, and a leading paleontologist says we need to stop calling them fossils, that's huge.
Not millions of years.
No, can't possibly. I have video of that on 60 Minutes where she's interviewing. She goes, couldn't possibly survive 1,000,000 years, let alone 70 million years. And then they go on and go, isn't that amazing that it survived 70 million years? I'm like, y'all say bless your heart out here, Idaho? You know, bless your heart in the South.
Very nice.
Means you're an idiot. Sorry, did I say that out loud? What's funny is I got my northern friends will come down and some old lady will be sitting there saying, oh, bless your heart. And they're like, oh. And I'm like, oh. That's not what you think.
Okay. Well, thank you guys for coming out. I hope it was a blessing to you. We'll have Massey at the end of this month. So it'll be the same thing last Tuesday of the month here, fellowship potluck, and then seminar. We're going to be here at the church. We'll have Biblical Heritage of America taught by Massey Campos. So since this is our 250th anniversary as a country, it'll be kind of a timely message. So, Bill, would you mind closing us in prayer?
Sure.
Heavenly Father, we love you and we thank you for every opportunity to come into your presence and your word to learn more and grow closer, Lord.
Amen.
We thank you for just the awe and wonder we learn more and more, Lord. It never ends. Lord, we just pray that eyes and hearts are open, Lord, in the world around us, in our family, in our friends, our community, and our nation, Lord, that they know truth from all the chaos and the falseness that goes on in this world, Lord, that your light shines bright into their lives as they seek you. Lord, again, we just thank you for the opportunity to come together as brothers and sisters for this potluck, and we ask you to guide us and place our steps. And we thank you for Pastor Dave's time, and we ask your safe travels, and for safe travels and mercies for him as well.